Hello, my name is Nasrin and welcome to my presentation about how I have developed my personal practice framework as an emerging social work practitioner. Through this presentation, I will outline the key elements that I have discovered about my personal framework. By doing this, I will hopefully be able to paint a picture of how I operate as a social worker. The topics that will be discussed today include the importance of a practice framework. In this section, I will explaining what a practice framework is and why it's important for me to have an understanding of my framework. Then I will provide an explanation of the key value, culture, practice theories, skills, and professional knowledge, which I poses that affect me and are the foundations of my practice framework. Next, I will discuss and provide examples of how I have used my practice framework in professional environments such as my placement for university or my time as a community leader. Lastly, I will discuss the aspects of my practice framework that I believe will need to be further developed. A practice framework is based on a combination of skills, value, and knowledge that provide the foundations for practice. According to Leslie Chainwood and Donna McAuliffe explained in their textbook published in 2014, that frameworks act as a guide to how you practice and makes your work purposeful, and assist in making judgments and decisions about how a social work practitioner will act in various circumstances. By conducting a review of my practice framework, I'm able to easily explain my approach as a social worker, not to myself, but to my peers, employers, and even the service users. According to Karim Healy, published in their textbook in 2014, that a framework is a piece of us that grows as we grow. As you gain knowledge, skill, and experiences from either a personal or professional environment, you will always learn from these situations. And these factors will also influence how you perform as a social work practitioner. It can also be said that a practice framework is also fluid and needs to adapt to the situation. Otherwise, it will be ineffective in helping others. Each person is unique in themselves and in their situation. There is no one size fits all. As a social work practitioner, so having a wide range of skills and knowledge can be very beneficial. Okay, let's look at what's involved in my practice framework. Firstly, let's look at values. Michael Porter explained in his textbook published in 2000 that values, beliefs, and attitudes are very important as they are the building blocks of a person's behavior. Therefore, my values, attitudes, and beliefs shapes me as a person as well as my practice framework. Thinking about the reviewing our value and attitude is pivotal for social work practitioner. As Myers explains in his textbook published in 2005, that our values and attitudes guide our behavior more when we think about them. Therefore, reflecting on my value, attitudes, and beliefs through exploring my practice framework will help in understanding and better guide my behavior as a social work practitioner. The value that I feel strongly about are being respectful, being self-aware of not only my personal beliefs, morals, and culture, but being able to acknowledge others' beliefs, morals, and cultures, and lastly, being understanding and congruent. The, the first value that I believe strongly about is being respectful. I believe that being respectful is one of the most important values that a social work practitioner should have. The Australian Association of Social Workers agree that having respect for others is one of the democratic values and principles that they embrace in their code of conduct. I believe that every single person should be treated with respect. Respect should be shown to each service user's unique situations and experiences. My thoughts on being respectful are in alignment with the Australian Association of Social Workers Code of Conduct. The second value that I believe strongly about is self-awareness. I believe that self-awareness is another very important value that a social work practitioner should possess. According to Archana Kushik's article from 2017 regarding the use of self in social work, being self-aware refers to the ability for persons to recognize their own thoughts, beliefs, emotions, personality traits, personal values, strengths, and weaknesses. All drive our behaviors. With a stronger sense of self-awareness, I will be able to provide better care for the service user, as I will be more empathetic to the situation and in touch with what the service user requires. Skinder, Corey, and Corey claim in an article from 2020 that healthcare workers need to be aware of their own identity, limitations, feelings, and frustrations to then know their clients better. Lastly, I always try to be understanding and empathetic towards the service user as I want to be congruent in to their situation. Dinty Plight defines congruence in their article published in 2007 as the constancy between the social worker's understanding of a service user's circumstances and that of the service user. Through the use of self-awareness and respect, I believe that I will be able to create a safe environment for the service user so that I can then understand their situation and know how to provide assistance. Both of my key values align with the Australian Association of Social Workers Code of Conduct and other social work professionals. I believe that I have these values as a result of my culture. I'm very lucky to say that I have experienced different type of culture in and around my life, which has provided me with the knowledge of understanding and being accepting of other cultures. I was born and raised in Afghanistan as a Muslim. I fled my home country shortly after getting married, seeking temporary refuge in India for 1 year, and ultimately coming to Australia, where I have been living ever since. I have spent many years here in Australia and believe that I have, for the most part, assimilated in Australian culture. Australia is also a very multicultural country, so I have been able to learn about many different cultures as most of its citizens are culturally diverse. I believe that due to these reasons, I have become very culturally competent and culturally sensitive. I cannot say that fully understand every culture. However, I have found that people are generally very excited to share information about their culture. So the opportunity to continue furthering my cultural competency will always be available. I have been able to identify two practice approach theory that influence my framework. Ecological system theory and person-centered approach. I have been able to utilize this theory to understand what issues a service user is facing and how to overcome these issues. There is no one theory that can be utilized in every situation. Every service user will have different circumstances affecting them. Ecological system theory has been explained by Malcolm Pine in his textbook in 2014 as a method to understand the different systems that each relationship group has formed with the service user, as well as identifying that if there is an issue with one system, that it can affect the service users, other system, or even the service user themselves. I have found this theory to be most effective when dealing with children and adolescents during placement, as I'm able to establish which system are causing an issue. Leslie Chainwood and Donna McCullough explain that this theory is great for showing connections between systems, but it does not explain why there is an issue. I have found this to be true during my time utilizing this theory. Another theory that I have been utilizing as part of my practice framework is person-centered approach. Carol Langa and Cynthia Letts explain in their textbook in 2014 that person-centered approach consists of three key principles. Firstly, service users face personal and social problems when they are being devalued. Secondly, Change can only occur in genuine helping relationship. Lastly, service users are capable of self-actualizations when their conditions and situations allow for change and positive growth. So, the role of the social work practitioner is to identify that the service user only deals with the issue when they are being put down or devalued emotionally. I feel like through the use of open ended questions, I'm able to determine the cause of the issue for the service user. Okay, so let's discuss the skills that I have obtained during my time as an emerging social work practitioner. I believe that I possess many different skills that benefit me as a social work practitioner. Working with others is one of the skills I value highly. Collaborations with other services is a vital aspect of social work. I will never have access to all of the tools, funds, and assets that can be used to provide care for a service user. Therefore, being able to advocate for the service user to other organizations is very important, as other specialized organizations can have access to programs or provide assistance in caring for the service user. I have been creating a professional contact list of all of the partner organizations that I have come across during my placement. I have a brief understanding of how they can assist service users and can reference my book if I think that I can provide a beneficial referral for a service user. Just like my professional contact list, I understand that my personal and professional development will grow with time. The Australian Association of Social Workers believe that partaking in personal and professional development courses are vital for social work to gain and develop the ever evolving skills, knowledge, and expertise necessary. Prior to studying Bachelor of Social Work, I was the president of the Queensland Afghan Community Association. I was still able to provide some assistance to community members, but not to the full context that I wanted to. It was essentially me referring the community member to an agency that might be able to help. I wanted to do more, and I then took it upon myself to study this degree and become a social work practitioner so that I can provide greater care to the service users of the community. Professional knowledge is very important for a social work practitioner. I have a strong understanding of the professional knowledge required during my time in my placements. The first and arguably most important piece of professional knowledge for social work practitioners in Australia is understanding the Australian Association of Social Workers Code of Conduct and Practice Standards. These documents can be found on the Australian Association of Social Workers website. They provide the foundational requirements and responsibilities of social work practitioner in Australia. I have read and agree with these documents as they align with my practice framework. They are not the only documents that a social work practitioner will come across. Organizations may have their own policies and codes of conduct. My organization is very focused on the keeping patients' information confidential. I understand that I'm able to discuss the cases I work on as long as I do not reveal any personal information that may be used to identify the service user. Now I will discuss specific moments during my time as an emerging social work practitioner that link some of the values, culture, theories, skills, and professional knowledge I have discussed throughout this presentation that demonstrates that I have utilized my framework in a professional environment. During my placement at Queensland Children's Hospital, I have been asked to deliver a food school session for a young person with long-standing difficulties with feeding and avoiding restrictive food intake disorder. Through the use of person-centered theory, I was able to create a safe environment to respectfully discuss the goals for the session. as we wanted to introduce a new food for him, which was a ham sandwich. I discovered that it's really important that my communication skills to use active listening to ensure I do a lot of validation and acknowledgement, because the last thing that young people want is another adult in their life who they feel like does not listen or just gives advices. As a Muslim, I prohibited from eating pork and found providing harm to someone else quite confrontational. However, through the use of self awareness, I was able to identify and overcome this belief and cultural boundary to provide assistance to the service user. Another case involved a young female service user who was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. To understand more about the service user's life, I decided to create a genogram. Through this genogram and the use of open-ended questions, I was able to identify the relationships that different systems involve in this young service user's life. I was able to identify which systems were causing an issue for the service user, and from there create an intervention plan and promote holistic care for the young female and her family. The most appropriate course of action for this service user was to advocate another organization that can better assess the service user. My framework is not perfect and will continue to grow. However, I have been able to identify some key aspects of my framework that I can immediately start working towards improving. Firstly, I believe that although would rate my communication skills quite highly, the verbal aspects of my communication that sometimes struggle. I find it difficult to pronounce some larger words and have an accent that some may have difficulty in understanding. This is a result of not learning English until I moved to Australia as an adult. I believe that my verbal communication skills are improving every day and will continue to improve as I gain more experiences. Another thing I would like to improve as a part of my framework is exploring different type of theory and understanding how to approach service users in a different capacity. During my placement, I have been able to work with only a handful of theories in my arsenal. However, I would like to strengthen my knowledge of other theories available so that I can always have a method to approaching different type of service users. The last thing I would like to change about my framework is self-care. I believe that as a mother of three and an adult returning to tertiary education has been very difficult for me to handle. I need to be able to better balance my work-life scale. Self-care can be anything from ensuring that I take a moment between different service users so that I do not burn out, to ensure that I'm eating healthy and maintaining a healthy and active lifestyle outside of the professional environment. Regardless of all of this, I still understand that my framework will always be changing and adapting to my practice setting. I will be constantly reviewing my framework to ensure that I'm providing the best type of care that I can for a service user. Thank you.